Creating and utilizing barriers and masks. This short video will provide information about creating and utilizing barriers and masks, including what is a barrier and what is a mask, how to create a barrier and a mask, and how to utilize a barrier and a mask. Other videos within this general topic include landscape overview, landscape critique, and editing a landscape. We have lumped barriers and masks into the same video because although they are separate files that can be used in a fire behavior analysis, they have some similarities. They are created in a similar manner, and they are both used to make changes to a landscape. Let's begin by first talking about what is a barrier and what is a mask. A barrier file is a line or polygon that an analyst uses to stop surface fire spread on a landscape. During a simulation, if the fire encounters a barrier, surface fire spread will cease. However, if spotting is enabled in the analysis, fire spread can occur over a barrier through means of spotting from torching trees. A mask, in contrast, is a polygon that an analyst uses to make a change or edit to a landscape or LCP. A mask can be used to change a fuel model or canopy characteristic on the landscape, and are commonly used to make adjustments for disturbances such as historical fires that aren't represented in the landscape, drought or beetle kill affected vegetation, or canopy adjustments through calibration efforts. Mask and barrier files are created in the same manner. From an incident analysis, select Analysis Map from the left-hand menu. To draw a barrier or mask, select either the Draw Polygon or Draw Line tool, whichever is appropriate. I will first create a line barrier. Using left clicks of the mouse, draw the shape you want and double-click to complete. After double-clicking, the shape will turn yellow. That indicates it is ready to be saved as either a barrier or a mask. In this case, I will save it as a barrier. If you mess up, you can select the Erase button and then draw the shape again. Once you are ready to save the shape, expand the Analysis menu from the left and select the green plus button to the right of either barriers or masks. Give the shape a name. For example, if it is a road that will be a barrier, you could name it after the road, or if it is a mask to represent an old fire scar, you can name it after the old burn. I will name this barrier Road 12. Select Save once complete. You can view your new barrier or mask by expanding the menu and turning it on and off. I will also create a mask so that we can use it later in this video. I will name it Fire Scar 2011. Now that we have covered how to create barriers and masks, let's discuss how to use them. First, barriers. Remember, barriers inhibit spread from surface fire, but not from spotting. Barriers are added to an analysis from the main information screen for each type of analysis. Here, under the Barrier File heading, you can select barriers that you added from the drop-down list. Note that you can select to fill a barrier or to not fill a barrier. This means that if your barrier is a closed polygon and you select to fill the barrier, spots cannot land within the polygon and burn. If you had a polygon and selected not to fill, that would allow spots to burn inside the polygon. If your barrier is a line, however, this selection is irrelevant because for a line there is nothing to fill, so you can just leave the default. This setting can be handy if you are trying to simulate an area on a landscape that will not burn, for example, an area of rock or water or green meadow, or other landscape feature that will inhibit burning within the area. One thing to note is that from the drop-down menu, you can only select one barrier file. However, on some landscapes, you might have many barriers to spread, but they are disconnected. This can be managed by creating a new barrier file that contains all the areas you want to mark as barriers. Return to the Analysis Map screen. To add to your barrier, first I'm going to turn on the barrier that we already created. Right there, road 12. And now I will add another unconnected barrier line by drawing a new line and double-clicking to complete the shape. Now that the shape is highlighted yellow, I will now use the Select Feature tool to select the first barrier. Now that they are both yellow, I can add them as a new combined barrier file, which I will name Road 12 and 13. When we return to the information screen and select the drop-down menu for barriers, the new combined barrier is listed and can now be selected. Let's now discuss how to utilize a mask. Masks allow you to edit a landscape within a specific polygon rather than across the entire landscape. Mask rules are implemented from the Landscape Editor screen, which is accessed by selecting Landscape Editor from the left-hand menu. There is a separate video on the topic of editing a landscape, so here we won't go into detail on how to make edits, but just cover how you can utilize a mask. Watch the Editing a Landscape video to learn more about editing. To utilize a mask, you first add a landscape rule by selecting Add. Towards the bottom of the screen, in a box labeled Limit Rule by Shape Mask, you will see the mask I created earlier, Firescar 2011. If you wanted to utilize the mask for a rule, first you select the mask, and then click the Move to Right arrows to move the mask to the box on the right. This will indicate that the rule you will create will now be applied only to the masked area. For example, if I was going to make a rule to change the fuel models within the masked area to Fuel Model 181, I would select Fuel Model under Attribute to Change, and then type in 181 under New Attribute Value. By selecting Save at the bottom, I've created a Fuel Model Change rule that utilized the mask. It is always a good idea to read the rule once you have created it to make sure it makes sense. In this case, we state that if the LCP intersects Firescar 2011, we'll set the fuel model to 181. This is just a brief example of utilizing editing rules. For more detail, watch the video on editing a landscape. To review, in this video, we covered what is a barrier and what is a mask, how to create a barrier and a mask, and how to utilize a barrier and a mask.